At this moment, the group of cultivators that Wang Lin was part of was still 1,000 zhang away from the woman. The cultivator controlled by Wang Lin suddenly flashed his eyes, stepped forward, and swiftly passed a few cultivators in front of him. In the instant they looked on in astonishment, he arrived behind the cultivator at the very front of the group. The cultivator at the front was a middle-aged man whose cultivation had reached the 3rd step, appearing to be at the early void nirvana stage. He seemed to sense something and was about to turn around when the cultivator controlled by Wang Lin's eyes suddenly glowed with a strange light. A wisp of smoke shot out from his forehead and entered the middle-aged man's eyes in the blink of an eye. The entire sequence happened in a flash. The middle-aged man's body trembled, his eyes showing a moment of struggle, but he quickly calmed down and turned composed. At the same time, the woman holding the compass trembled. Her compass shook violently in her hands, and just as it was about to reveal a clue, the smoke controlled by Wang Lin, having entered the middle-aged man's eyes, forcefully took control of his mind. The middle-aged man suddenly took a step forward, charging toward the woman 1,000 zhang away. I discovered a drop of black liquid in the sea along the way, not sure what it is. The middle-aged man's voice was hoarse. He covered several hundred zhang in a single stride. As the seated cultivators around him opened their eyes in unison, his right hand raised and a drop of black liquid shot forward. The moment the black liquid appeared, it immediately emitted a strong essence aura. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's voice, the woman quickly looked up and saw the drop of black liquid. Her pupils constricted. Pure purification fluid. The woman gasped in shock. Taking advantage of her moment of surprise, the middle-aged man, still controlled by Wang Lin, crossed another few hundred zhang, now less than 100 zhang from the woman. However, just as he was about to close the remaining distance, the 3 great flags nearby suddenly rippled, emitting a whistling sound. As the sound spread, the woman's compass clearly displayed the scene of the black liquid that Wang Lin had previously directed to fly from the mist and into a cultivator's ear. Stop! The woman's mind jolted, and she immediately screamed. As she stepped back, the young man behind her, whose face was as pale as jade, looked on with horror. Origin scattering. Almost simultaneously with the woman's scream, the middle-aged man controlled by Wang Lin let out a low growl. His body instantly exploded, a wisp of smoke flying out and transforming into Wang Lin. The moment Wang Lin appeared, the black liquid, which had been flung near the woman just moments ago, suddenly erupted. Black ink-like waves swept through the area at breakneck speed, and in the blink of an eye, everything within 1,000 zhang was covered in black. The hundreds of cultivators seated in meditation barely had time to react before their bodies rapidly corroded and turned into black water with a chilling scream. Even the more than 10 green devil cultivators behind Wang Lin, unable to escape in time, perished. At the same time, a roar suddenly rang out from beside Wang Lin. It was EC, who had lost one of his arms, transforming into a ghastly figure and charging toward the 3 flags. With a loud crash, one of the flags snapped in half, and EC, swaying, rushed toward the remaining 2. Everything happened in an instant, triggered by the woman's cry to stop. Wang Lin stepped forward, closing the gap of 100 zhang in a flash. As the woman and the jade-faced young man began to retreat, the young man recognized Wang Lin's identity, his face turning pale with fear. At the moment the woman raised her left hand to press the compass and send out a warning, Wang Lin suddenly raised his right hand and pointed directly at the 2 of them. Freeze. The word freeze seemed to conjure countless fine threads, which spread through the air and wrapped around the woman and the young man's bodies. Both of them froze instantly, completely immobilized by Wang Lin's will. The young man's terror was frozen in his eyes, while the woman's left hand, barely an inch from the compass, was held in place. In a flash, Wang Lin snatched the compass from the woman's hand, showing no mercy. He raised his left hand and struck her forehead with a palm. There was a loud crash, and the woman's entire body exploded into a mist of blood, her soul completely collapsing. As Wang Lin flicked his sleeve, the blood mist swept like a hurricane toward the young man, enveloping him. At the same time, a flash of blood-red light shot from his sleeve. The blood sword was on its way, aiming directly for the young man's head. Just then, a resounding crash echoed, as EC's left arm broke the second and third flags with ease. The black ink within the 1,000 zhang radius quickly condensed, shrinking into a single drop of black liquid, which Wang Lin swallowed without hesitation. Everything was over. The hundreds of cultivators were dead, along with the woman. The young man, named Zhao Wang Lin's face was slightly pale. In this move, speed was of the essence. As soon as he finished, he immediately retracted the EC puppet and, with a flick of his body, shot straight toward the ocean depths, vanishing without a trace. Underwater, Wang Lin raced forward. Holding the compass plate in his hand, his divine sense surged into it, and the sound of crackling echoed around him. His eyes reddened as the restriction origin suddenly surged, crashing into the compass plate, erasing the divine sense it carried, and turning it into his own possession. If anyone else had tried this, they might have failed. But Wang Lin possessed the restriction origin, and that allowed him to succeed. With the compass plate in his grasp, it was as if he now controlled the restriction array over the Dan Sea. His eyes gleamed as he swam through the waters, closely examining the compass. He could clearly see that in the Dan Sea, there were only 3 or 5 green light spots. Among them, one was particularly glaring. The rest of the green light spots were all above the sea's surface, clearly indicating that when Yun Kong had cast his spell, he couldn't stay submerged in the water. Fixing his gaze on the blinding green light, a murderous intent flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. Yun Kong, you're next. With a flicker of his body, Wang Lin merged into the restriction array, vanishing in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already in the heart of the Dan Sea's central waters. The moment his form shifted, Wang Lin immediately sensed the surrounding seawater violently swirling, the muffled sounds of the turbulence growing louder, as if his body would be pulled into the maelstrom. Looking down at the compass plate, Wang Lin noted that he was already very close to Yun Kong's position. However, his expression shifted as he observed the wildly swirling waters around him. Perhaps, I don't need to give up those 30 million Dao souls. Wang Lin murmured, not moving forward but sinking deeper into the sea, hiding himself. At this moment, the entire Dan Sea seemed to stir with immense waves, thunderous roars echoing. 9 gigantic whirlpools spun simultaneously, 8 surrounding the 9th whirlpool in the center of the sea. The 9th whirlpool spun faster and faster, and gradually, the surrounding 8 smaller whirlpools also began to rotate, all centered around the 9th. Deep within the 9th whirlpool, Yun Kong sat cross-legged. His face was slightly pale as his hands continuously formed seals. It said that the Dan Sea was formed when a celestial pill fell and transformed, but in reality, it wasn't the entire pill, just half of it. Yun Kong's eyes flashed. Suddenly, he raised his right hand and reached forward, grabbing forcefully. Dan Sea condense. With a loud boom, the surrounding whirlpools sped up and began to rapidly condense. As the condensation continued, the seawater slowly thinned, and strands of immortal energy began to spread out. At this moment, the Dan Sea resembled a basin. At the center of this basin, a colossal sea whirlpool spun, while in the sky above, tens of thousands of green devil continent cultivators hovered. They all gazed downward, their expressions serious. They were waiting for Yun Kong to condense the half-pill, to break through the heavenly bull continent's barrier. Wang Lin was also hidden beneath the whirlpool, waiting. He was waiting for the moment when Yun Kong would complete the pill, and then he would strike with all his might. Time passed slowly. Yun Kong was too focused to observe his surroundings. The tens of thousands of cultivators in the sky had all their attention on him, believing that no one from the heavenly bull continent remained in the Dan Sea, especially with the formation restriction in place. There was nothing to worry about. No one noticed the breaking of the 3 great banners, nor the change of ownership of the compass plate. All eyes were on Yun Kong. After all, nothing was more important than witnessing one of the 4 great prodigies, Yun Kong, refining the Dan Sea and condensing the celestial pill. Even Yun Kong himself never imagined that Wang Lin would return. At that moment, deep within the 9th whirlpool, Yun Kong's expression was solemn as his hands formed seals. He pointed, and the whirlpool suddenly contracted, shrinking rapidly from endless size to just 100,000 zhang. The massive Dan Sea, at this moment, was being refined into a 100,000 zhang whirlpool. This sight immediately lifted the spirits of the many green devil continent cultivators in the sky. Yun Kong smiled slightly, took a deep breath, and roared to the heavens. His entire cultivation base erupted. His power was strange. Though he was in the midst of an eruption, it was impossible to tell his exact realm. What could be felt, however, was a vast sword chi, swirling with a thundering force. There was also a sword intent that enveloped all directions. My master sent me here to condense the Dan Si's celestial pill to push my reputation even higher, surpassing the other three prodigies, and to enter the ancestral temple in the immortal clan's imperial city of the Central Plains as the #1 in the eastern continent. Yun Kong's eyes flashed. The surrounding 100,000 zhong of seawater once again condensed, shrinking to 50,000 zhong, then to 30,000 zhong. From a high vantage point, the entire alchemy sea appeared vast, with only the 30,000 zhong expanse of seawater visible. The rest of the area was covered by land, thick with seaweed and coral, teeming with countless sea beasts, all of which exploded in violent deaths in an instant. Yun Kong's face was pale, as this action was a heavy burden even for him. As the seawater began to condense into a 10,000 zhong radius, he raised his right hand, and with a swift motion, a jade bottle appeared. He crushed the bottle, and a golden droplet of liquid flew out. The moment the golden liquid appeared, ethereal chi swirled through the air, and the dense immortal energy spread out, so rich that it seemed to solidify, enveloping the surroundings. Yun Kong inhaled deeply, then pointed a finger. Instantly, the golden liquid shot toward the massive whirlpool of seawater outside his body. The alchemy sea was transformed from an immortal pill, a fact known to many. Some have even tried to refine the pill here, but throughout history, no one has succeeded, because they lacked one crucial element. This element, Yun Kong smiled slightly, is this golden droplet. This droplet was extremely rare, a treasure found only after countless years of search in the Green Devil continent. It was once part of the immortal pill that turned into the alchemy sea. Only with this droplet could one truly solidify the immortal pill in the sea. Otherwise, the limit of 10,000 zhong would never be surpassed. Many had tried and failed at the 10,000 zhong mark, forced to stop and watch the seawater disperse. As the water absorbed vast amounts of vapor from the heavens and earth, the alchemy sea would reform. But this time, Yun Kong was fully prepared. There would be no room for failure. I will personally condense the immortal pill and break through the heavenly bull barrier. This feat will make my name resonate across the immortal astral realm. Yun Kong laughed heartily, forming seals with his hands. Immediately, the seawater inside his body, after absorbing the golden droplet, began to undergo violent changes. The seawater seemed to boil, swirling intensely. The 10,000 zhong seawater rapidly contracted for the first time, breaking its limit. It shrank to 5,000 zhong, then 3,000 zhong, and eventually to 1,000 zhong. The smaller the condensation, the greater the power of the immortal pill. But 1,000 zhong is still not enough. Yun Kong closed his eyes. A tremendous sword intent erupted from within his body, enveloping the 1,000 zhong whirlpool. It condensed sharply, his divine sense fully merged with the alchemy sea, with no reservations, completely immersing himself. Booms echoed in the sky. The thousands of cultivators watching from above saw the 1,000 zhong sea whirlpool shrink again, now to 800 zhong, 500 zhong, 300 zhong. And it wasn't done. The sea continued to contract rapidly, heading towards the 100 zhong mark. As the seawater shrank, the whirlpool became too blurry to be seen clearly with the naked eye. Amid the thunderous rumbling, the faintest sign of an immortal pill began to take form within the water. But now, no one could interfere. The immortal pill was in its final stage of condensation, and it was extremely unstable. Any touch could cause it to explode prematurely, and the consequences would be catastrophic. This was why the Green Devil continent had cleared the alchemy sea first. Only when everything was certain did Yun Kong begin the condensation. However, due to the formation array in the area, no one knew of Wang Lin's presence. The formation array now belonged to Wang Lin. If he wished, he could remain undetected by the formation. Success was imminent, but just then, A sudden burst of energy erupted from a seaweed patch deep in the sea, miles away from Yun. This energy was none other than Wang Lin's. In that instant, he took a step forward. He vanished in an instant and reappeared outside the shrinking 100-zhang sea whirlpool. Although his appearance was sudden, as soon as he materialized, countless divine senses immediately converged upon him. Some of the tens of thousands of cultivators in the sky reacted instantly, their faces changing dramatically. They surged toward Wang Lin with great speed. However, Wang Lin was faster. Having merged with the formation, he appeared outside the 100-zhang whirlpool. Without hesitation, he raised his right hand, and a blood-red sword materialized. He slashed it downward, not at Yun, but at the 100-zhang sea whirlpool. Stop! A thunderous roar came from above, trying to intimidate Wang Lin and stop his actions. But Wang Lin's will was unyielding. At that moment, Yun had immersed his entire mind into the sea and found it difficult to shift his focus. Wang Lin's sudden appearance caught him off guard, and the timing was crucial. But Yun was no ordinary cultivator. As one of the 4 great prodigies, he wasn't easily shaken. In the instant Wang Lin's sword struck, he suddenly opened his eyes. Without time to react in shock, he bit his tongue, spitting a mouthful of blood. Simultaneously, his divine sense rapidly contracted, preparing to withdraw from the sea. The blood he spat instantly transformed into a sword shadow, clashing directly with Wang Lin's blood-red sword in a deafening explosion. Wang Lin's blood splattered from the corner of his mouth as the blood sword recoiled. Yun face turned pale. As the sword shadow formed from his blood collapsed, "It's you." Yun expression twisted into a snarl as his divine sense contracted over a vast area. It seemed he was about to fully withdraw from the sea, and once he succeeded, he would have the chance to free his body and engage Wang Lin in battle, stalling him for just a few breaths. Then, hundreds of rainbow streaks flying down from the sky would arrive, and at that point, Wang Lin would never escape. However, Wang Lin had waited so long, always calculating before acting. There was no way he would let Yun escape just like that. He had planned for every possible change, including the exact timing of the cultivators arriving from the sky. The restriction formation in Wang Lin's hands, shaped by his divine sense, prevented the hundreds of cultivators from merging into the formation and arriving in an instant. They were forced to rely on flight, but by the time they neared within a few hundred zhang, the formation over the alchemical sea shifted dramatically. Wang Lin altered it, transforming it from one that allowed only entry to one that allowed only exit. A vast downward shift occurred, right in front of the hundreds of incoming cultivators. With a loud boom, they were halted and pushed back, but their force caused the formation to show signs of collapse. Yet Wang Lin's goal was not to trap them, but to buy time. With this formation delaying them, it was more than enough. Just as Yun divine sense was about to fully retract, Wang Lin's blood sword spun back, but behind him, the fire primordial true body materialized. The avatar seized the returning sword and slashed again. This strike brought a sea of fire, its speed and timing perfectly coordinated by Wang Lin. It connected seamlessly with the previous strike, the first one shattering. But these 2 slashes were the true killing moves of Wang Lin. The sword howled toward Yun, and with a roar of rage, filled with boundless fury, Yun eyes cracked as the blade struck the massive 100-zhang whirlpool of seawater. The sword pierced clean through, halting the whirlpool's rotation. A destructive aura immediately spread from the massive whirlpool of water, one so powerful it seemed capable of destroying the heavens and the earth, wiping out all living things. Though some of Yun divine sense remained in the sea, as soon as the destructive aura erupted from the water, he was severely wounded. Blood spewed from his mouth as he immediately retreated, no longer caring for Wang Lin or the 100-zhang whirlpool. While he had come as a clone, the death of this clone, along with the collapse of his sword intent, would cause an irreplaceable blow to his true self. At that very moment, the hundreds of cultivators descending from the sky, along with the tens of thousands of soldiers, all felt a tremor in their hearts. A sense of destruction that threatened all life flooded the heavens and earth, ignoring the restriction formation and spreading in all directions. The immortal pill is going to explode. Panic erupted as tens of thousands of cultivators fled in terror, desperately trying to integrate into the formation, but Wang Lin controlled the formation, and none could escape. Wang Lin spun around, and without hesitation, stepped toward the heavenly bull continent, the ripples of his movement vanishing as his figure began to fade. But just then, the 100-zhang whirlpool of seawater, which had been severed, exploded with a thunderous crash that shook the entire heavenly bull and green devil continents. The sound echoed across the realms, and countless cultivators in the sky spewed blood as their ears rang. Yun Kong stumbled, despair flashing in his eyes. "I will not let you go," he screamed. At that moment, the 100-zhang seawater exploded, distorting the sky and shaking the earth. A force of destruction swept across the surroundings. The immortal pill, set to explode ahead of schedule. It was meant to detonate near the heavenly bull continent, breaking through the heavenly bull's protective barrier and causing massive collapse and devastation to the land. But now, it exploded in the center of the alchemical sea, and the damage was not limited to the heavenly bull. It would also ravage the green devil continent. Yinkong's body was too close. Despite his frantic escape, he was caught in the destruction, unable to resist even with his powerful sword intent. The destruction overwhelmed him, and his form shattered. Wang Lin merged with the world, preparing to leave, but the destructive force surged toward him like an enormous maw seeking to devour all life. Just as it closed in, Wang Lin's figure vanished ahead of it. The earth cracked as the destructive force swept across it, obliterating layers of the land, revealing a vast, starry void beneath. The force of destruction rampaged through, and within moments, it engulfed the entire alchemical sea, causing it to vanish. Almost simultaneously, the force struck both the heavenly bull and green devil continents. Boom, 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 boom. The entire heavenly bull continent shook, as if mirrors were shattering, the heavenly bull's protective barrier collapsing. Meanwhile, the green devil continent suffered the same fate, with constant rumblings, the earth cracking and mountains soar on the heavenly bull continent. In that instant, it seemed as if a gigantic bull phantom appeared, roaring silently toward the direction of the green devil continent. Immediately after, a massive green scorpion, large enough to cover the entire green devil continent, materialized, letting out a silent screech, as if it was challenging the giant bull in an unheard-of roar. In the midst of this destruction, the alchemy sea vanished entirely. After tens of thousands of green devil continent cultivators perished, the remaining ones were unable to avoid the impending doom. Yet, just as the destructive force approached, and in their despair, a colossal phantom suddenly appeared in the sky. The phantom appeared to be a person, though their face was unclear. With a wave of their sleeve, endless space was enveloped, and all the surviving cultivators of the green devil continent were drawn into the sleeve. Under the approaching destructive force, the figure hurriedly retreated, narrowly escaping the impact of the devastation. It vanished without a trace, but at the moment of its disappearance, the figure still bore some wounds. The alchemy sea had become nothingness, and the land near the alchemy sea on the heavenly bull continent collapsed layer by layer. Large chunks of land were upheaved, sweeping toward the interior of the continent, creating a massive dust storm that obscured the skies. Similarly, on the green devil continent, the land cracked and shattered, being sucked into the sky, transforming into a gloomy dirt mist, resembling a vast, dark cloud that spread across the heavens. Fortunately, the immortal pill exploded in the center of the alchemy sea. Had it occurred closer to the heavenly bull continent, the devastation would have been catastrophic for the continent. This also revealed the extraordinary nature of the immortal pill and the mysterious origin behind it. 3 days later, the destructive force created by the explosion of the immortal pill slowly weakened, until most of it dissipated. However, the dust storm that covered the edges of both continents still lingered. After 3 days of silence, the green devil continent did not change its plan to enter the heavenly bull continent. The three major sects united once again, with disciples led by elders, gathering a force of 70,000 cultivators. They marched toward the void of the alchemy sea, toward the now unprotected heavenly bull continent. Among them, some cultivators had reached the void cataclysm stage, able to move freely. They transformed into dozens of long rainbows and led the way at the front of the army. These cultivators were the first wave of killers in this war, and they played a significant role in their continent's power. On the Heavenly Bull continent, near the Alchemy Sea, the land was crumbling in many places. The sky was dark, and the air was thick with dust and mist, creating an eerie atmosphere. There was a howling sound, echoing through the heavens and earth, like the wailing of vengeful spirits, unsettling the mind. In the midst of the mist, on a partially collapsed mountain peak, sat a white-haired young man in a meditative posture. He was Wang Lin. At this moment, Wang Lin's face was pale. Over the past 3 days, he had spent almost all of his time healing. On the ground in front of him lay some dried, dark red blood, the remnants of his injuries from the previous 3 days. Though the destructive force had not exceeded Wang Lin's expectations, he had still been swept by the residual shockwave after using the shrinking earth technique to escape. Even though it only brushed against his body, in that moment, Wang Lin thought he heard the sound of bones breaking, flesh shattering, and his essence spirit disintegrating. After merging into the heavens and earth and appearing here, he could no longer bear the strain, spitting blood before hurriedly sitting down to heal. Had it been an ordinary cultivator, even if they survived, they would have had to possess another body. But Wang Lin's physical body was the Tao ancient body, so while injured, it would not be destroyed. On the evening of the 3rd day, Wang Lin opened his eyes for the first time, taking a few deep breaths. His brows furrowed as he realized that the dust and mist in the air tasted bitter. He looked up at the sky, and although it was dusk, the fog had obscured the sun and moon. It's worth it. Despite the injuries, despite the fact that Yun Kong's words before he died indicated that he most likely came as a clone, his clone is completely dead. Once the clone dies, the main body will be affected. I just don't know how significant the impact will be. It shouldn't be small. And I've also obtained this. Wang Lin lowered his head, a hint of red returning to his pale face. He flipped his right hand, and a faint glow appeared. In his palm, a compass materialized. The compass looked ancient, and the Alchemy Sea map that had once been on it had disappeared. In its place was the map of the Heavenly Bull continent, the very land he was currently on. There was not a single light spot on the map. This restriction technique is quite mysterious. After absorbing and merging with it, my restriction origin will certainly increase. But for now, it still has a great use, so there's no need to rush the fusion. Wang Lin had been able to heal here, because his injuries seemed to be 70 to 80% healed, so there should be no issues now. At this moment, with his water origin at great perfection, he needed to hurry back to the Great Soul sect. He wondered if his jade slip had arrived at the sect yet. Based on the timeline, it probably hadn't arrived yet, but the tremor from 3 days ago across the Heavenly Bull continent would surely have attracted some attention. Wang Lin paused, then stood up. His gaze flickered, and with a wave of his left hand, he grasped the air, immediately summoning a jade slip into his palm. This jade slip appeared ordinary, but it contained a record of Wang Lin's second journey into the Alchemy Sea, his path of slaughtering to seize the compass, destroying 3 large flags, and ultimately striking down the immortal pill, causing the pill to prematurely collapse, killing Yun Kong, and setting off waves of destruction in all directions. Once Wang Lin left, everything after that wasn't recorded. Wang Lin was not a naive beginner cultivator. After joining the Great Soul sect, he understood that no matter which sect it was, credit was always rewarded with magical artifacts, pills, and cultivation techniques. However, simply speaking of one's accomplishments would always raise suspicion. The best method was to record everything in the jade slip, leaving behind traces that spoke for themselves, allowing others to easily verify its authenticity. After a brief moment of contemplation, Wang Lin erased the part about obtaining the compass, leaving only the sequence involving the immortal pill. This was more than enough. With this, I can request the 9th layer of the Great Soul Sect's multiple illusion path from the Azure Ox Patriarch. Wang Lin put away the jade slip and compass, withdrew the restrictions in the area, and with a swift motion, transformed into a streak of light, speeding toward the depths of the Heavenly Bull continent. The rainbow-like streak howled as it flew, and after reaching a distance of 10,000 meters, Wang Lin's figure vanished in an instant. only to reappear deep in the inland of the Heavenly Bull continent, far from the Alchemy Sea. He did not stop along the way and kept moving at full speed. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, over half a month had gone by. Wang Lin was now not far from the Great Soul sect, but that was considering his shrinking earth technique. If he were flying, it would still take several months. This place was already deep within the inland of the Heavenly Bull continent, where mountains stretched far and wide, and the landscape was lush and green. It showed no signs of having been affected by the Alchemy Sea shockwaves. After all, the Heavenly Bull continent was enormous, and the impact from the Alchemy Sea only covered a small area. During intervals of using his shrinking earth technique, Wang Lin sat cross-legged in the sky on top of the mosquito beast, accelerating his journey. Apart from merging with the heavens and earth, he spent most of his time meditating to heal his injuries. After more than half a month, his injuries had recovered to about 80 to 90% and were nearly negligible. One day, as Wang Lin was flying, he suddenly raised his head, his eyes narrowing. Ahead, several flickers of eerie light appeared in the sky, and within that light was a black paper crane. The paper cranes sped in different directions, moving so fast that they even outpaced Wang Lin. In the blink of an eye, they vanished without a trace. Fortunately, one of them passed by Wang Lin. As it disappeared, Wang Lin cast his body immobilization art, freezing the paper crane in midair and pulling it toward him with a flick of his sleeve. As his divine sense merged with the paper crane, a stern voice reverberated in his mind. The Green Devil continent is invading, destroying the Alchemy Sea, and breaking through the Heavenly Bull continent's barriers. The army will arrive soon. The Great Soul sect and Unity sect have issued the Soul Unity Decree, calling all sects to seal their mountains. All cultivators capable of battle must head to the 7 caves of the Heavenly Bull, which were opened eons ago. Anyone near should hurry there immediately. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He released the paper crane, which flickered with eerie light before vanishing without a trace. He pondered deeply, staring into the sky ahead. After a long while, he furrowed his brow and decided not to entertain the strange thoughts that had been sprouting in his mind. He calmed his thoughts, focused, and continued his journey, sitting cross-legged atop the mosquito beast. On his way back to the Great Soul sect, 20 days passed, and within the vast emptiness of the Alchemy Sea, dozens of void tribulation cultivators from the Green Devil continent, acting as the vanguard, were racing toward their destination. Their mission was to use any means necessary to wear down the Heavenly Bull continent's third-step cultivators. The more they killed, the greater their chances of success in this battle. Behind them, about a month's journey away, the Green Devil continent's 70,000 cultivators were traveling in a massive formation, with 70,000 streaks of light stretching across the sky, slowly advancing. Behind this massive force, a terrifying sword shadow followed. It carried an immense aura of sword intent, and at its core sat a young man in a green robe, his long hair cascading over his shoulders. His face was nearly ethereally handsome, with a calm expression, though his face was somewhat pale. His slender eyes radiated a cold, ruthless glint as he gazed at the distant Heavenly Bull continent. Destroy my clone, and send my cultivation to the early void tribulation stage. This grudge, we will settle it slowly. The golden ancient sword beneath him emanated an overwhelming aura, and behind it, a towering figure wearing a royal robe and golden armor seemed to flicker into existence. This figure exuded an ancient, majestic aura. This sword, was the sects of these 2 continents may have engaged in some skirmishes, but the magnitude of this incident, directly refining the Alchemy Sea, forcibly blasting open the barrier gates, and slaughtering those who entered the opposing continent, led Wang Lin to suspect something more. Such actions had escalated beyond sect rivalries. They had turned into a war. Interesting. I hope my suspicions are wrong. Otherwise, the more people die, the more irrelevant I will feel to this immortal clan. If it's really all just for the purpose I suspect, this whole situation is chilling. Whether it's the Green Devil continent or the Heavenly Bull continent, perhaps. Wang Lin fell silent atop the mosquito beast, his thoughts racing. He recalled the 3 gifts left for him by the Great Soul sect, and the words of the Azure Ox, who had said that the sect's ancestor had predicted his arrival. There was a huge purpose hidden within this, one that was critically important for both the Great Soul Sect and the Green Devil Continent. Thus, after repeated small-scale skirmishes between the Green Devil Continent and the Heavenly Bull Continent, they had launched this massive operation, refining the Alchemy Sea, smashing the continent open, and invading the Heavenly Bull in one fell swoop. That was why, many years ago, the Great Soul Sect had moved to the Heavenly Bull Continent. The sect's ancestor had calculated the world and deduced the changes in all things, all in preparation for this long-planned secret. Wang Lin remained silent, extending his hand. A small figure appeared in his palm. He stared at it for a long time, but instead of predicting the changes of the world, he closed his fist and put it away. What would it matter if I knew in advance? Besides, with my Tao techniques, I can't predict what the Great Soul Sect's ancestor left for me. Perhaps that gift was meant to help me deduce this, and it may be his way of revealing the answer to me. Wang Lin mused with a faint smile. He hadn't yet used the gift, feeling no need to. From the clues he had gathered, he had made some guesses. Now, he simply needed to slowly verify them, eliminating the wrong ones until he uncovered the true answer. This kind of thing was what Wang Lin excelled at. Or perhaps, he would just ignore the turmoil and leave early. 10 days later, Wang Lin appeared outside the Great Soul Sect's mountain gate. The instant he arrived, several streaks of rainbow light shot toward him. He could feel the entire Great Soul Sect immersed in a strange distortion, as if shrouded in an ominous atmosphere. Amid this distortion, murderous intent surged, causing his pupils to constrict. But this murderous aura wasn't directed at him. It was part of the sect's protective formation. The distortion made it difficult to see the finer details inside the gate, but Wang Lin could vaguely sense that the Great Soul Sect felt like a volcano on the verge of eruption, pressured, as though something dark was brewing. This was merely a sensation that arose after Wang Lin swept his gaze over the area. It could be true, or it could just be a misperception. The streaks of rainbow light that had approached him now slowed, their hidden intent shifting to caution and wariness. Once they recognized Wang Lin's identity, the murderous aura dissipated, though the caution remained. 7 figures materialized before him, 2 elders of the Great Soul Sect and 5 disciples. Elder Wang, my apologies. One of the elders, who had met Wang Lin once before when he fought Yin Luan, clasped his hands and spoke solemnly. The Green Devil Continent has breached our Heavenly Bull Continent's barrier. Our ancestor has issued orders for a thorough inspection of all returning visitors, elders, disciples, and anyone else. No one is allowed to enter the sect without passing a strict inspection, the elder continued. The other elder also clasped his hands and bowed, a respectful gesture. Since they had seen Wang Lin enter the Soul Repository Pavilion multiple times, few in the sect dared to offend him. The 5 disciples behind the elders lowered their heads, occasionally glancing at Wang Lin. It was their first time seeing him in person. No matter, Wang Lin replied with a smile. Given the current state of the war, such measures are to be expected. Seeing Wang Lin's calm and friendly demeanor, the 2 elders relaxed. They had no desire to make enemies with him. It would be pointless to let sect orders cause unnecessary discord. Now that Wang Lin was so accommodating, they both smiled back, eager to build a better relationship. Please, Elder Wang, present your token, one of the elders said. Then imprint your divine sense to verify your essence spirit, and drip a drop of blood to confirm your physical form. Wang Lin nodded, raising his right hand. A moment later, his identity token, which he had used before entering the Soul Repository Pavilion, appeared in his hand. He placed his divine sense onto the token, then pricked his finger and let a drop of blood fall onto it. With a flick of his hand, one of the elders took the identity token with one hand, then formed a hand seal with his left hand and pointed behind him. Immediately, the sect protection array of the Great Soul Sect shook violently, releasing an overwhelming pressure that rushed toward Wang Lin, enveloping him. In an instant, it drew near and passed through his body, sweeping across him. Wang Lin's mind jolted as he distinctly felt the pressure from the array. It was strange, and its main purpose seemed to be to eliminate any excess essence spirit and divine sense within his body. At the same time, as it enveloped him, it subtly assessed the closeness between his physical body and essence spirit. From this, the array seemed to be verifying his identity. Once the pressure swept through his body, it focused on his identity token, performing a double check before gradually dissipating. It wasn't until that moment that the two elders fully relaxed. One of them returned the identity token to Wang Lin and smiled, saying, "Elder Wang, no offense. The array allows us to verify your return to the sect. We have duties to attend to and cannot accompany you further. I hope you'll understand." Wang Lin, always courteous when others were polite to him, smiled slightly. Having once been a great scholar in the dream realm of his cave mansion, he carried an unusual aura. He cupped his hands toward the two elders, about to leave when he suddenly asked, "Has something happened in the sect recently?" The two elders exchanged a glance, and one of them whispered, 7 days ago, a cultivator from the Green Devil continent tried to infiltrate the Great Soul sect. Elder Su Dongda discovered and killed him. This angered the ancestor, which is why the elder smiled bitterly, cupped his hands, and left. Wang Lin fell silent. With a swift motion, he transformed into a streak of light, flying into the Great Soul sect. As he entered, the oppressive feeling he had sensed earlier intensified. The entire sect was in motion. Streaks of light filled the air as disciples rushed across the vast mountains of the sect. Large refining materials were being manually transported by cultivators who couldn't store them in their storage dimensions. They were being carried to various peaks. Several large herb mountains were filled with disciples harvesting medicinal plants, which were sent to specific elders for pill refinement. The sound of cultivation fluctuations echoed from many of the peaks, indicating that most elders were currently in seclusion, striving to maintain their peak strength in order to execute the sect's various tasks. All of the peaks in the Great Soul sect were like this, except for Wang Lin's Flame Mountain, which was eerily quiet, without a single sound. As his gaze swept across the area, Wang Lin noticed that on his own peak, Fan Shanmeng was sitting cross-legged in her cave mansion, completely still. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then waved his sleeve and, instead of returning to his peak, he headed straight for Qingtian Peak, where the Azure Ox Patriarch resided. "Greetings, Elder Wang. Disciples of Pathblaze Peak greet Elder Wang. Disciples of Severed Heaven Peak greet Elder Wang." Wherever Wang Lin passed, the sect disciples immediately halted what they were doing, offering their greetings before continuing on with their tasks. Wang Lin continued without stopping, nodding slightly. He became a streak of light again, dashing forward. His cultivation base was impressive, and his full-speed flight quickly drew the attention of nearby elders. But upon sensing that it was Wang Lin, they dispersed without a second thought. Soon, Qingtian Peak appeared in the distance. Wang Lin blinked and instantly appeared outside the peak. He cupped his hands toward the mountain and calmly spoke. "Wang Lin seeks an audience with Azure Ox True One." Qingtian Peak looked different from before. It was now surrounded by a faint green mist. As Wang Lin's voice echoed, the mist parted to reveal a gap. "Come in," came the voice of the Azure Ox True One. Without hesitation, Wang Lin stepped forward, entering through the gap as it quickly closed behind him. He followed the mist and reached the peak of Qingtian Mountain, where he saw Azure Ox True One sitting cross-legged on a stone, gazing into the distance. In his palm, there was a small figure, solidified like an essence spirit, bowing toward the Azure Ox True One. Wang Lin stood by and silently observed the little figure in the Patriarch's palm. After a moment, the small figure bowed 6 times, showing signs of exhaustion. As the Azure Ox True One clenched his fist, the figure disappeared without a trace. "I've received your jade slip. This matter should earn you a reward," Azure Ox True One said, slowly opening his eyes with a smile, gazing at Wang Lin. "The Green Devil continent has engaged in several small-scale skirmishes with our Heavenly Bull continent, but this is the first time they've made such a bold move. They've even managed to find a way to this matter is likely to take some time to resolve. The Green Devil continent is home to 3 major sects, each with its own powerful old-timers. Their cultivation levels are comparable to mine, but that doesn't matter. I alone can face 2 of them." The Azure Ox True One's eyes gleamed with coldness as he spoke. Clearly, his earlier divinations using the soul evolution art hadn't yielded a very optimistic outcome. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He sat cross-legged across from the Azure Ox True One, gazing at him before suddenly speaking. I want the multiple illusion art from the 9th layer.